Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story. It will grip you and have you rooting for someone and against someone else. You will want to tune in episode after episode to see what happens next until it all finishes with a hopefully satisfying conclusion. Each short story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time that they are introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every major character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. For reference, we will only be observing what the TV show is showing us and what story is being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story and characters here have no idea and therefore are unaffected by those future seasons. All character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And with that, I want to thank you all for supporting this channel. Subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing are crucial to this channel's growth and making all of this possible. If you want to do more to help make this channel an all-star, then consider supporting us on Patreon. You get every video weeks before they ever see the light of day here on YouTube, and you get to vote for which survivors I tell the stories of, like this one, and of course, even get an exclusive Patreon-only video each month. Thank you for your support.
39 days, 18 All-Stars, 1 Survivor.
Jerri Manthey, considered to be the ultimate villain of Survivor after her time on Survivor's second season, the Australian Outback, was a castaway on Survivor's 8th season, Survivor All-Stars. The love storyline between her and Colby on her first season was infamous at the time, and the way the show focused on things from Colby's perspective and completely ignored hers made her into the biggest villain of all time, having her dubbed by many as the Black Widow. She seemed to constantly cause social issues in the camp, and many players had the perception that she would do absolutely anything to win the game, including stabbing you in the back. So, how does she do in All-Stars, and can she shake off this label that she has been given? Let's find out. What is important to note about Survivor All-Stars that is different from all previous seasons of the show is how the tribes are separated. For the first time ever, there are 3 tribes of 6. The Mogo Mogo and Saboga tribes each have 2 former winners, and Shapira has none. The Saboga tribe consists of Jerri, Ethan, Tina, Rupert, Jenna Lewis, and Rudy. And this tribe is probably the most even out of how all the tribes are assembled. Unlike in past seasons, there is no marooning by Jeff to begin. The players get dropped off at their beach with a machete and a map to their water well, and that's it. Ethan Zahn immediately assesses his tribe and he likes the makeup of it, even calling Jerri the hot chick.
First impression of the group, I'm happy with the group. You know, you got the mom, the nice guy, the military guy, the hot chick.
Our first time hearing from Jerri is how she doesn't like who is on the tribe as much as Ethan. For one, Tina is there, and as you may remember from the Australian Outback, Tina is a big reason of why Jerri went home. However, Jerri has an ace up her sleeve. This time, she's going to implement a new strategy, a new way of thinking, a new way to approach the game, which she explains as,
but I'm going to try this new strategy of mine, and that's to keep my damn mouth shut.
Later on, the tribes finally meet for the first time, and everyone finds out who they are playing against. While Rupert steals most of the spotlight for the Saboga tribe since everyone is enamored with him, there is a fun little editing moment here between Jerri and Colby. Her tribe loses immunity, and Jerri should be safe because Jenna Lewis has already made it public that past winners are her enemies. They need to go immediately. Nobody wants a winner to win again. They've already had the chance and they need to get out of here. Now, in order to do this, Jenna and Jerri need Rupert and Rudy on their side to vote out either Ethan or Tina. Preferably Tina from Jerri's perspective.
Tonight, I think it's important we take out the 2 winners first. And I hate to say it, but
It's the fun of it.
it's gonna feel great.
However, Rupert is not 100% on board though, and talks to Ethan, who pitches that Jenna and Jerri do not play an honorable game like Ethan does, nor like Rupert does. which is a great move by Ethan to try this, but only helps to paint Jerri in a light that people mostly know her as from her previous game.
You watch Jenna and Jerri. You saw how they played last night. They don't play the way you play.
At Tribal, we get a glimpse of what the weather will be like this season as it is pouring down. Jerri says this is far worse than anything that happened in the Australian Outback weather-wise.
It's bad, Jeff. It's bad. You can live without food, but you cannot live without water, and we are all feeling it right now, and it's scary. It's really scary. Thankfully for Jerri, she is safe as no one votes for her, and Tina is gone 4-2.
Tina, the tribe has spoken.
So far in this premiere episode, Jerri's first impressions are surprisingly quiet. To be fair, the show is trying to balance 18 players for the first time, and they're all players that we want to hear from. But as of now, the focus isn't on Jerri. She said her new game plan is to remain quiet and fade into the background, and that seems to be working so far. With Tina gone, she really only has one sworn enemy left in the game, Colby. However, her past is already coming back to haunt her, and it will be telling if she is able to overcome that, or if it will become her downfall. Episode 2 begins, and that rain does not let up at all. Jerri says once again that this weather is far worse than anything in the Australian Outback, and it was by far the worst night of her entire life.
Last night was the most miserable night of my life. I didn't get a single wink of sleep all night long. I sat upright in the shelter all night, rocking back and forth trying to stay warm. At the reward challenge, Saboga wins, but it ultimately doesn't matter as all they have won are some lousy blankets. But Jeff offers them an option. If they would like, they can instead get a pot, a flint, and if they agree to this though, they have to let the other two tribes have this as well. Being as this is the superior option by far, Saboga takes the deal.
Give everybody flint.
Oh, we
Back at camp, Saboga is trying to start the fire, and sure enough, Jerri is the one who ends up actually getting it started for them.
Whoa!
While she does get her moment in the sun, it all comes crashing down pretty quickly as at the immunity challenge, Saboga loses. Again. But this time, Ethan and Jerri are largely to blame for this, and the tribe is keenly aware of her shortcomings.
Hey, Jerri, we're holding her to the boat.
I know. And I said, get out of the boat.
Surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly though, her nor Ethan are being targeted. Instead, Rudy is breaking down physically and he's already getting injured. While he doesn't complain, he is becoming a liability to the tribe, and even if he were healthy, he's 75 years old and quite a bit slower than everyone else. So at Tribal Council, the tribe makes the smart move and votes him out.
Rudy, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 3 opens up and Saboga is building some tribe unity. They are hard at work and Jerri even helps to build a dinner table. Life is finally getting better for them.
I'm feeling really good about where we're at. Yay!
Cute.
They then run into a stroke of luck as, considering they were just building things with no supplies, this reward challenge has them using supplies that the Home Depot has provided them to build the best shelter they can in 24 hours. Whichever tribe makes the best shelter wins. Rupert says, let's try something different. Let's not do what they're expecting, that boring old shelter that is above ground. Everyone knows that, and it's not new, and it wouldn't stand out from the crowd. Instead, let's build an underground log cabin that they will be able to stand up in, and Rupert's quite proud of this idea. Jerri says this seems like a terrible idea, which Rupert disagrees with, but no one publicly backs her up. But she is 1000% correct.
Personally, I don't feel digging into the ground is a good idea. But
None of them are gonna make a structure as creative as ours. They're gonna make huts.
I hear ya.
We're gonna make a log cabin.
But you know what? All we need is rain rushing down the side of that hill right into our shelter, and we're screwed.
However, we do hear in confessional that Ethan does agree with her, but he knows his back's against the wall and he doesn't want to start a fight between him and anyone else because he knows that could be the deal breaker for his game.
She had very valid points. You know, I don't want to dig down 3 feet and live under the ground.
Rupert is vehemently against this idea Jerri has of not going underground and gets pretty annoyed at her. She then tells us that he is a control freak.
Rupert's a complete control freak. He has to have everything his way, and he thinks he's the only one who can do it right.
And from everything we saw on Pearl Islands, and even now, considering that she just now is the first person to ever really say this about Rupert, it seems like actually she may be correct if you think back to Pearl Islands and looking at this situation. Jerri's onto something here.
It's going to take longer to dig 3 feet in the ground.
How do you have any idea? I know what I can do. I'm 40 years old. I've done my for years.
It gets really dark and the shelter is still not close to being done. Jerri cannot believe how incredibly stupid this idea was, and the fact that they went through with it is even worse. After all, what happens if it rains? Wouldn't that fill up the shelter and make it useless? She just can't wrap her head around the stupidity.
I could not believe the stupidity. We played strong, but we played stupid. And that is what infuriates me.
As it turns out, when the inspector comes to judge each tribe's camp, he agrees this tribe is the worst, and he says he would not want to live there at all.
You would not want to live here.
Oh, no, man.
Dangerous?
Yeah, this is a water. This it's.
You know what he's saying?
And they get last place in the challenge because he says, yeah, if it rains, they're gonna drown. They go to the immunity challenge and Jenna Maraska quits the game.
Someone who's very ill at home right now. That's getting worse. I need to pull myself out of the game and be there.
As it turns out, she suspects she needs to be at home with her sick mother, and turns out she's right, as her mother passes away not too long after. Since Jenna quits, there is no immunity challenge or tribal council, and we move on to episode 4. Back at camp, it rains hard, which is very common on this season of the show, despite taking place in the same location as the previous season where we didn't see that much rain. But the rain is a lot more frequent here, and it just seemingly doesn't end. And what do you know? The shelter fills up with water, which is Jerri saying just how bad this all really is.
We've been shivering in the rain probably 5 or 6 hours. It's a disaster.
Rupert sobers up and finally gets past his pride and ignorance and realizes, yeah, this shelter was a terrible idea, and I am to blame for it.
A stupid shelter that I built was destroyed. Digging into the sand is the dumbest idea I've ever had in my life.
The next day, Saboga bands together and builds a shelter that won't kill them the first time it rains. Jerri begins to feel a bit better as, after they build that shelter, the sun comes out, and she's saying, though, she now gets it. She can understand how people can go mad because she felt herself get to the brink of that.
Yesterday morning, I about lost it. After that storm, I didn't think I was going to be able to snap out of it. I literally experienced a moment where I realized how people go mad.
At the immunity challenge, each tribe is blindfolded and has to be guided by a caller. After collecting all of their puzzle pieces, they then can remove their blindfolds and build a puzzle. Jerri is the caller for Saboga, and she does a good job at that. But what is key is that she leads the charge on building the puzzle, and they get first place, finally winning immunity.
Saboga, first tribe to win immunity!
We move on to episode 5, which begins with a twist. For the reward challenge, the tribe that comes in last place will be dissolved and drafted by the 2 other tribes. So as Saboga has done for most of the season, they lose. Rupert and Jenna then get drafted into the Shapera tribe, while Ethan and Jerri get drafted into Mogo Mogo.
Jerri and Colby reunited. Jerri, now a member of Mogo Mogo.
This is good and bad for Jerri. Good because Mogo Mogo, when they were making a decision, they were whispering to each other and said, Ethan is our target, we gotta get him out. So Jerri isn't the target. But bad because Colby is on that tribe and he is Jerri's sworn enemy.
We chose Ethan because we knew if we had him on our tribe, we had control of how long he stays in this game.
But Jerri is loving this change of scenery and even makes sure to publicly express it to her new tribe mates.
Can I just say thank you? I'm very, very happy to be over here. I really, really am. I'm gonna cry.
We're glad to have you.
I wouldn't cry anymore.
Mogo Mogo is now on the search for the last key to open their box with rice. Every tribe was given a box with rice in it and they needed 3 keys to open it. Saboga didn't even get close to this, so we didn't talk about it, but here Mogo Mogo just needs 1 more key. As they search and search, Jerri is actually the one who finds it for them.
First thing this morning, got up, went and looked for the key,
Life is good for Jerri. She isn't public enemy number 1. She loves her new tribe. They have a competent shelter. She just found the key to the rice box, but unfortunately though, Mogo Mogo failed to keep that box dry like they were instructed to, and half of their rice is not edible due to it getting wet.
Unfortunately, when we opened the carton, half the rice was rotten.
And things don't get much better as Mogo Mogo then loses immunity, and Colby tells her that they want Hatch gone next, which is still great. I mean, she isn't being targeted.
Hatch comes to you and asks you, tries to bring you in the loop.
Tell him that I'm telling about her Ethan.
But she thinks this may not be the best move for her game as Hatch is a free agent and he isn't a threat to her game at all. She would rather have Colby gone. She tells Hatch Colby's plan and tries to rally the votes to get Colby instead.
I'm trying to convince Kathy that instead of Rich, it's Colby.
But it doesn't work out as Richard is voted out and the winners continue to go home.
Rich, the tribe has spoken.
This move to get out Richard Hatch shows everyone that Lex and Colby are running the show, and that move they just made shows everyone who really holds the power in this tribe. Episode 6 begins and Jerri brings back a classic move of hers, which is talking obsessively about food. This time though, she doesn't beat a drum about it with Amber like she did in the Australian Outback, but instead she is now making a full-fledged grocery list, and while this would be fine if she kept it to herself, she doesn't, and it annoys people.
Bananas, apples, gala apples.
I hate talking about food this early in the game. It drives me crazy.
Jerri and Lex then go to retrieve Tree Mill, and while there, she makes an alliance with him, and he feels really good about that.
I just want you to know you can trust me.
Okay.
150,000%.
Okay. The conversation I had with Jerri was completely sincere. I don't have any reason to feel that it was anything but.
At the reward challenge, Sue Hawk blows up big time. For all the details, watch the story of Richard Hatch, but to make a detailed story short, in the last episode, Richard got naked as usual and ran into Sue on purpose, which at first she didn't think much of, but overnight, she mentally collapses and feels violated by Hatch, so she quits the game.
I was violated, humiliated, dehumanized, and totally spent, Jeff. It wasn't sorta, Jeff.
Anyways, Jerri's tribe wins the reward challenge in part thanks to her, and there is no tribal council this episode. So we move on to episode 7 where we see Jerri complaining and yeah, Sheehan and Kathy are simply sick and tired of hearing it.
My back is killing me. Jerri is starting to drive me insane. I couldn't sleep last night on the rack. It was really painful.
We then hear from Colby how Jerri in the Australian Outback and the Jerri we see now, years later, is exactly the same. Nothing has changed. She is just as bad now as she was then, and that can only mean one thing. Her new strategy has failed. She has failed to keep her mouth shut, and as a result, she's burying herself into a position where she's just grating on people.
Jerri has not changed one iota from the first time she played this game, but I really let it just roll off my back. And maybe it's because I know Jerri's not going to win this game.
Mogo Mogo loses reward, and back at camp, tensions are rising between Sheehan and Jerri. Colby even says how it may be high time for the two just to duke it out and get it over with.
I say
I don't want to get
we
sick.
put the boxing gloves on.
There's no difference between Jerri and Sheehan to me.
Though to be fair, this seems largely instigated by Sheehan and not Jerri, but it's still a bad look.
I don't want any of the rotten stuff. So, okay, well, I don't really care.
Colby approaches Ethan and says he wants Jerri gone, which Ethan, Jerri's old tribe mate, agrees to do with no hesitation.
I've been pushing for Jerri since day one. She's getting on our nerves. It was pretty simple to, go to Colby and say, Jerri.
However, that alliance with Lex pays off in dividends as he tells Jerri that her wish is finally coming true. The day she's been dreaming about for so long is happening. Him, her, and Sheehan will be voting off Colby next.
We're going to do Colby tonight.
I'm very content with that decision.
So you're on board.
Totally.
You, me, and Sheehan will vote for Colby. He's not going to see this coming a mile away, I don't think.
At Tribal Council, it's a hot one for Jerri. She starts off by saying that her game plan is to simply vote off whoever is the biggest threat to her in this game, which elicits an eye roll from Colby, but is a smart way to play by her.
When I vote for the person I find to be my biggest threat.
And I disagree with that.
Jeff then asks Jerri if she's a weak link for the tribe, to which Jerri describes what she believes are her positive attributes. However, it seems like her tribe disagrees with her, and I can't argue with them, as she thinks her shift in behavior has worked, but it is clearly not.
I feel like I am an uplifting member who is generally in a good mood and keeping spirits high.
It is time to vote, and when Ethan votes for Jerri, he says she is two-faced.
Jerri, you're two-faced, so bye.
When Jerri votes for Colby, she says this is purely for revenge, which is not a way to gain favor when you're viewed as the villain and Colby is America's golden boy, but it's how she feels.
Is this a revenge vote? Hell yeah.
However, it works, and Colby is blindsided 3-2.
Colby, Trump has spoken.
Episode 8 begins, and Jerri is at an all-time high. How could she not be when the person who betrayed her and blindsided her in the Australian Outback just got blindsided? Revenge never tasted so sweet.
Yes, I feel like I'm being evil right now, but boy does it feel good.
At the immunity challenge, Mogo Mogo has to designate someone to be their archer to battle in a one-on-one matchup against Boston Rob. They pick Jerri, and
Wide to the right, that's it. Shapira wins immunity.
she loses immunity for her tribe with her terrible performance. Despite this blunder, people are getting antsy that the merge is coming up next, and Lex says it is now high time to vote out the last remaining winner in the game, Ethan. He doesn't want to bring him to the merge, and he tells Jerri that Ethan's next to go.
Tonight we're gonna take Ethan out. I think that strategically it just makes the most sense now.
Lex then does that thing he does in Africa when he talks to someone before voting them out, which almost never works out for him, and tells Ethan, you're going next. Ethan cannot believe this. How could this happen? How could Lex want him gone instead of Jerri, who Ethan views as having not earned her place in this game?
She's done nothing for this game, she's done nothing for this tribe, she's done nothing for you, and you're rewarding her with it. She does not deserve to be here.
It is all for naught though, as Ethan is voted out and Jerri is safe once again.
Ethan, Trump has spoken.
Have fun, play hard, don't let the bed bugs bite.
Episode 9 is a recap episode, which does not further the story at all. So it is now episode 10, and the tribes do not have a challenge. Instead, Jeff is tasking them with pairing up with someone from the opposite tribe and having a picnic lunch. Everyone suspects that this means the merge will be happening right after the picnic lunch, though the last time Survivor has done this specific thing in Thailand, a fake merge happened instead. In any case, Shan is paired off with Rupert, and she still doesn't like Jerri at all. While talking with Rupert, she talks about Jerri's lack of a good work ethic, and he agrees, saying he was glad to be able to escape her by going to Shapira.
Jerri is nice, but she doesn't work as hard as the rest of us.
I'm so happy to get away from her.
Jerri is paired off with Big Tom, and he gives her a pep talk to push her through the rest of this game.
They cannot get you down. We got 18 days, you suck it up, be the stud you are. Put your chest out.
As it turns out though, this is not a merge, and it's not a fake merge. They're not trying to trick anyone here. They're simply swapping tribes. And in a strange turn of events, everyone literally just swaps to the other tribe except Amber. Amber's the only one who stays on Shapira. Otherwise, Mogo Mogo is now Shapira, and Shapira is now Mogo Mogo.
Amber is the only one to change tribes. You stay with Shapira, but your tribe members are all new.
Back at the Shapira camp, they are loaded with rewards, and Jerri takes this opportunity to brush her teeth, and for some reason, the camera guy zooms in way too much on this. However, the different buff color does not change how each tribe performs at challenges, as the new Shapira, Jerri's tribe, loses immunity once again, and when this happens, Boston Rob cuts a deal with Lex to save Amber, who was the obvious next target otherwise.
If you can. Lex, move it out.
Lex tells Kathy that he thinks he can exploit Boston Rob's favor.
It's absolutely horrible for Jerri.
I know it is.
But I do think that I can exploit the favor to our advantage.
And decides to instead cut one of their own, considering him and Kathy's only options are Shan, who is Kathy's right-hand woman. Jerri is the low woman on the totem pole. Lex does that thing again where he tells the person they're going home, and the moment he starts to spiel, she says, oh no, and knows immediately what he's going to say next.
You know I love you. And you You know I have to be straight with you.
Oh no.
She tries to warn him that saving Amber is a bad idea and Boston Rob will do anything right now to save her, but as soon as he can, he will stab Lex in the back.
Boston Rob will tell you anything to keep Amber around. It's so obvious. He will stab you in the back the second he gets the chance. Please reconsider, Lex.
Lex doesn't seem to agree with Jerri though, and at Tribal Council, almost at no fault of her own, she is voted out over Amber.
I'm gonna go eat some chocolate.
Jerri, the tribe has spoken.
So let's break this down. How was Jerri as a character? Surprisingly, she was really toned down from her previous time on the Australian Outback, though she still seemed to be the mouthpiece of reason on Saboga, in contrast to Rupert's insanity and Jenna Lewis's complete focus on eliminating winners. However, once she got on Mogo Mogo, the focus of the show drifted away from her for the most part. Once Colby was voted out and her edit just went straight villain, with her not really doing anything except slowly bugging others with her laziness and constant talk of food. It felt truly more of the same as her last time playing, but this time it felt like once Colby's game ended, so did her story. Out of 17 character moments shown on the show, 5 were heroic and 12 were villainous, making Jerri Manthey a villain on Survivor All-Stars. Now, how was Jerri as a strategist? She did a pretty good job actually. Despite not placing any higher than she did on the Australian Outback, she had to endure a lot more challenges along with constantly being in the minority, unlike her last season where her tribe was the majority. It really says a lot about her when she is voted out that she's okay with this because she made it further than Colby and that's all she really cared about. Despite her best efforts, nothing had changed when it came to people's perceptions of her. She was still annoying those around camp and ultimately made herself a good goat to bring to the end until Boston Rob pulled some strings to have things done his way, and ultimately Jerri fell victim to that deal. However, she warned Lex of exactly what was going to happen to him, and she was right. Boston Rob was saying whatever he needed to in order to keep Amber, and he was going to stab Lex in the back. Out of 29 strategic moments shown on the show, 18 were smart and 11 were dumb, making Jerri Manthey a smart strategist on Survivor All-Stars. Thanks for watching. If you like the content you see here, then please support me and this channel on Patreon. Your financial support makes all of this possible, so thank you, and thank you for watching.